You need to fear not writing the essays because you will fail. I don't want to give you the free choice of saying, oh, I don't want to write the essay, don't write it. You want to write it? Write it. Because what's going to happen? Well, your nature is complacent. Your nature is lazy. If there is no fear, you're not going to do any goddamn thing under the sun. You're going to kind of take everything very, very casually. And I'm going to look at you from the first and say, listen, you don't come to class, you don't do the essays the right way, you will fail this class. And you're not going to manipulate me into caring for you. I don't know you, man. I don't have the energy to want to get to know you. Your life is not going to be my burden. People come, people go. You can be one of those. Look around you. There is poverty, there is homelessness, there is loneliness, there is depression, there is isolation. You want to be in that category? You can. But when I come to class the first and I say, listen, you don't do this, I will fail you, end of story. If that fear doesn't even move you, no one can help you. And the point that I suppose the Pope is trying to tell Jesus is that you have given people, you have appealed to their false nature, the lazy nature. They're never going to choose you over the comforts of life. And to some extent, it's very, very true because none of us in the New Testament are told how the life of Matthew turns out or Mark turns out. All we know is that Matthew has a wife. He's got kids. Jesus looks at him and says, follow me. He says, fine, I'll follow you. But what's happening to his wife? We don't know. Did she go into depression? We don't really know. And did his kids suffer? We don't really know. And we're given a very hippie version of the disciples of Jesus. Yeah, walk with him, go into the unknown, and everything will be fine. Now, nothing was fine. They all rejected him because the unknown is difficult. Fear is they see Jesus hang and they say, I don't want to end up like that. They go before the Sanhedrin and they get tried. I mean, Jesus got tried and found guilty. We don't really want to be in this trial with these goons over there because they're going to find us guilty. No doubt they're going to crucify us as well. You're always going to prefer your body over your spirit. That's how it is. A is always going to overcome your passion for curiosity and understanding and wisdom. You need fear in life. There are only very, very, very few and rare individuals, and history doesn't make very many of them. You have Gilgamesh, you have Malcolm X, you have Mahatma Gandhi, you have Jesus, Moses, Muhammad. You have maybe 15, 20 in the past, maybe 50, 60,000 years of human history is about 5,000 years. In the 5,000 years of human history, you've had maybe 20 people who have overcome the desires of flesh to pursue wisdom. And fear is a good thing. It protects your companion. It protects your children. It protects your job. And it protects your income. It protects you from losing your shelter, having your companion leave you, and your kid getting depressed. Fear is a great thing. And fear creates this environment we call politically correct. Don't challenge people. Don't question them. Always coddle them. So, if you kind of go back in time, there was a guy named Niccolo Machiavelli. He wrote a book called The Prince. And Prince was a book that Hitler read ferociously because he had understood what Niccolo Machiavelli was suggesting. You need to make sure that people fear you. What happens when you love anybody? After a while, you lose respect for the person you've loved. If you bring me flowers every single day, for example, I say, oh, Thank you. Oh, this is beautiful. I love you too. But after a while, I say, please, you become predictable. And once you become predictable, I look at you in a very, very casual way. I no longer have that much interest about you. Then I lose interest completely. But imagine if I like you, and every day you say to me, and you manipulated me into loving you. And then I say to you, you want to go out, have coffee? No, I'm busy today. Busy? Am I not going to see him today? Fear. Then what happens when I fear you? Fear not being around you. I begin to think about you all the time. Then I text you and then reply to my text. 5 days pass and then you reply. I say, oh my God, there's a good chance I may never see him again. So my fondness for you grows and grows and grows, not because I love you, but because I fear losing you. When I fear you, I begin to respect you. When I fear you, I begin to do things I usually don't do to please you. The only thing you need to be careful is the following. Let me fear you, but don't make the fear blossom into hate, because the moment I hate you, I will find ways. I will seek vengeance. I will try to destroy you. Fear creates respect. Hatred, I will turn your life upside down. And that's not what you want to do, because when I hate you, a revolution is on your hand. And you stand no chance when you have thousands of people revolting against you. You know. The point is, everything is so complicated. You know, one of the best books that, if you don't want to read Machiavelli's The Prince, if you don't want to read Dostoevsky's Brother Karamazov, American psychologist Eric Fromm, Escape from Freedom. It's a great book. 100 pages. You can get the PDF online. Escape from Freedom. In as much as all of us in this class, scream and shout to be free, the truth is we don't want to be free. It's too much work. Our good friend here is here for one reason. She says, I don't want to have the freedom just to think the way I want to think about this assignment. Give me guidelines. Tell me what to do. And tell me what to do in a way that will get me an A. And what she's saying is, please, don't give me choices. Tell me what to do. Can I write a 2-page essay? No, it needs to be 10. Okay, I will write 10. Will she ask, well, why do you need 10 pages? No. It's something I've always told my students. You don't want to do the work, that's fine. It is your freedom not to do work. But when you receive the consequences, have the freedom to embrace it as well. It's okay, I didn't do work, fine, it's okay. I'll take the class over. But usually people demand freedom without consequences and responsibilities. But it's usually good to have the right kind of fear, and that makes things very, very complicated. Yeah.
All of our
You have children? When you have a child, if you have a newborn and you're 20, if you have a newborn and you're 30, you're so governed by hopes and fantasies and dreams that you're actually able to kind of go to where your kid is emotionally, take him to the park for hours, sit and do Legos with them for hours, sit and watch cartoons with them for hours. You don't expect much from them because first, when you're only 20 or 30, you have another 50, 60, 70, hopefully years to live. So your demands are not going to be as high, and your relationship with time, your own mortality, is not as intense or deep. When you get to be 50, when you get to be 60 or 70, and your child says, let's go to the park, say, okay, but remember, it's 10, you got to be home by 10:15. Are you telling me we're going to drive all the way to the park, play only for 10 minutes and come back home? Yeah, why? I just don't have the energy of all these kids in the park screaming. I don't want to talk to parents. I don't really care for them. You know? It's not that you don't want your kids to have fun. It's just that your relationship with yourself, with time, with energy, with your child, everything has changed. So yes, if you're a young instructor and you're all about transforming your students, liking them, caring for them, you care for their future, and you say, oh yeah, they had that trauma happen to them, not a problem. Let them read this book, they'll be fine. No, they don't need to apply these ideas just yet, but you don't really think that way as an instructor, as a young instructor. So you kind of, spend a lot of time with people, do a lot of things with them. And very much like you said, and you read their essays, and you have this red pen in your hand, and you make all these corrections, and you say, please refer to page number 2, red mark 25. And the assumption is, it's because the student really wants to go into English and write like Emerson. She wants to be the next, Ralph Waldo Emerson or Henry David Thoreau. The truth is, out of 1 million students, you may get one who's really interested in that. As you get a little bit more seasoned, you kind of just look at the way sentences are formed, whether someone really understands or simply is able to string words together very eloquently. Some people are gifted. I mean, Mozart would never know what it means to make an effort. Mozart is just gifted. He comes out of his mother and says, violin, piano, please. And 2 minutes later, he's just writing music. You on the other hand, first you have to pass by someone who plays the music, then you have to grow to like it, then you have to find a teacher, then you have to find the discipline to behave well with the teacher, then you have to practice on your own over and over, year after year after year after year. 10 years later, then yes. But then in the meantime, you will not have a boyfriend, you will not have a girlfriend, you can't go to school, you can't do a lot of things people your age do. Why? Because you need to make sacrifices if you want to become really, really, really good. So, the answer to your question is, do I read essays closely? The first couple of paragraphs. And then I say, oh, she's winging it. She doesn't really know what she's talking about. There's so many things missing in just one sentence. It's not really not worth reading anymore. Let me just give her a C. It's because, it's if Jamal was to go on a date with someone versus Kevin, it's very, very different. He's going to be wanting the other person to like him. He doesn't care. He says, I got a daughter, I got a life. This is my life. You don't like it, go to hell. He, on the other hand, I'm 20. I don't really have very much confidence in who I am, what I am. I want someone to love me, someone care for me. Please love me. What do I want? You want hot coffee? You want cold coffee? Do you want nachos? I'll buy you anything. But I'm not buying it because I like you. I'm buying it so you can like me. So when you get an essay, it's a relationship. And I'm saying, okay, is this being written for an A? Is this being written because of curiosity? Is this being written because someone really wants to understand? And it's very, very difficult to find an essay where the desire to understand and the desire to get a really, really good grade are on the same stage. Usually the grade is way up there and understanding is way, way down there. And rightly so. You're taking 5 or 6 or 10 classes. You know, you don't want to end up like your parents. You don't want to be homeless. You don't want to end up working at In-N-Out and Home Depot for the rest of your life. So you have no choice but to kind of put your passion way down there in the gutter and your desire for an A way up there. So you plagiarize, you do all sorts of things. And when someone says, no, you don't really understand, you say, I don't understand? I understand things really well. You're 5. You don't really understand anything, you know? So, did that, Arvi? Is it? Anyone else?
So fear, fear is why some people should educate to make money. I don't understand where is the low enrollment. JC and state colleges, it seems like people are turning away from that.
Actually, the 4-year schools are doing relatively well because if you want to graduate from, say, San Francisco State University, you need to have 60 units from San Francisco. Maybe more these days, I'm not sure. So you need to be at that school to be able to graduate. And just in case you have like 60 units in San Francisco and all of a sudden you want to move to Sacramento and go to Sacramento State University, Sacramento will only accept 9 units of those 60 units. And so, politically speaking, it'll be far to your advantage to stay in San Francisco, finish it up, and then move to Sacramento for your master's. So 4-year schools have a much better enrollment than colleges do. What happens is you can be at Laney, you realize, Laney sucks. The buildings suck, the people suck, the instructors suck, everything about Laney sucks. You go to Diablo. And you carry all of your units from Laney. You say, Diablo is no better. You go to De Anza and you say, oh my God, De Anza is really, really good. You know? And now you're at De Anza, you have 20 from Laney, you have 20 from Diablo, and you spend the rest of your college career at De Anza, you graduate, and then you go to San Jose City College, San Jose State University. It's finished. Colleges right now have a very, very difficult time. And you have to wonder what's going to happen to all these buildings because they're not usable. You know, nobody wants to go out. Nobody wants to be in the classroom. You know, and that's one of the things you need to understand about being exposed to any kind of advertisement. Expose your 7-year-old to cartoons that have sexual contents. And by the time she's 8, she'd be curious about it. Don't expose your child to that. She'll be curious organically. Her biology basically one day screams out, oh, you know, this feels really good. What is that? And then she'll ask you questions. You'll kind of go nuts. And then she has to ask her friends questions. And that's her exposure. Okay? Now, what has happened during COVID is that people got this advertisement. You can actually stay home and do things. You don't have to go out. You can order food to come in. You can order stuff to come in. You can order your grade to come in. You know, everything is by phone order or online order. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh my God, this is great. I have a PhD and I haven't left my bedroom. And now, the problem now is this. You have your PhD, all happened online. You're 35, you look at your room, it's a mess. You haven't showered for like 10 years. And you say, you know, I want to go out and have a companion. But you're sick emotionally, you're sick mentally, you haven't spoken to anyone, and if you have, it's always been one of those, what do you call emojis, you know? You text people, how you doing? You send them a picture. So you go out and someone looks and says, so, what's your name? What do you mean? You kind of just scare them and they run away.
Run away.
So it's all about advertisement. Bethany?
I guess alcohol. Marijuana. Do you have an example of alcohol, marijuana? Maybe. So I guess I'm trying to understand is first we say we apply it to ourselves.
Okay, hold on. I'll tell you a real story. I had a student about 20 years ago. He was a very, very nice young man. He was about 23, I think. One day he comes to my office and he just breaks down. And I say, "What the hell, man? What are you doing?" "I've been watching porn since I was 9. And there is this girl I like. But every time I look at her, all the porn images come to mind. I don't even have the capacity to look at her as a woman. I only see her as an object to be had and tossed. What can I do?" Okay. The complexity of his problem is that, first, he's an American. Second, sexual images are everywhere. He got exposed to this at the age of 9. Sex is about pleasure. And this is intense. It's all consuming. Now, when you watch porn online, you don't have to leave your room. You don't have to make an effort to have a conversation, to have a dialogue. You get lost in the world of pleasure. You really just get lost. It's like when you get lost in anger and you say nasty things, and then you go back to your companion and you say, "I'm really, really sorry, I shouldn't have." You get lost. Now, when you keep watching this over and over and over again, what you have is habit. Every time you see a woman out there walking, a woman takes you back to the images that were exposed to you. Okay? Now, what happens is a conflict. There is your body that's addicted to porn, sex, pleasure, and then there is your emotion. Desires for a relationship, intimacy, understanding, and respect. These two worlds begin to collide. Now, you haven't had too much exposure and experience with intimacy, but you're addicted to porn. Having sex, taking a shower, and running out. Okay? This is something you haven't been exposed to. Now, you go out there and you want to meet someone, and let's just say you like someone. But every time you want to engage in an honest conversation or relationship, porn, the addiction gets in the way. And so this person comes to me and says, "How can I overcome this?" So they've had the porn. They also had exposure to the desire of intimacy. The question is, how do I overcome addiction? Because every time I want intimacy, porn gets in and destroys everything. What he's asking is there an AA center where I can go and sit in a community of 25 people where everyone stands up and says, "I'm an alcoholic, I'm an alcoholic, let me tell you my story." And then 25 people listen, and there is one person guiding. So how do you make this applicable? Well, the first thing I need to do is grab his cell phone. First, he has to trust me. Then he has to like me. Then he has to give me all of his technology. In other words, I have to cut him off from the source of nourishment. If you go home, for example, and let's just say you've smoked, and your mom doesn't like you smoking. She knows that there is someone out there who has given you this. And she says, "Who are your friends? Who do you hang out with? Where do you go every day from 1 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon?" And so what she is trying to do is figure out where you go to get the stuff, and she wants to cut you off from that particular environment. That's what you do. But when you have an addict to porn, to marijuana, to video games, what you have is routine. What you have is your access to future, which is, I'm going to go home after class and play 5 hours of video games. That's a signpost. You have plans for your life. And all of a sudden your mom comes in and says, No more video games. Sit and write the goddamn essay. Well, video game is fast. It changes your brain chemistry. You feel alive. Sitting, reading a book, thinking about the contents, and then thinking about them, and then writing about them, that's just too much work. It's boring. So the moment you open the book, you fall asleep. So what you need to overcome this, you need your mom or your dad to lock you in your room. But then you can kind of call the police and have them arrested. So despite the fact that you want a relatively good relationship with another human being out there, you become your own obstacle. And once your parents are arrested and they're released, they come to you and say, honey, we are sorry. We have forgotten. You're American. You have the right to do whatever you want. You want to watch porn? Fine. So sometimes compassion comes in a form of injustice, cruelty, and harm. That I will remove all the choices you want to make for yourself. And I'm going to lock you up. Because I have access to something you don't. I am 60, you're 20. I'm an immigrant and so are you. You're young, I used to be young. You have dreams, I used to have dreams. My dreams got crushed by the realities of life, yours hasn't yet. So I will crush your dreams so you can have a safer life 10 years from now. And all of a sudden you realize, well, if you want to change anyone who has any kind of an addiction, you need to go into their life and basically destroy 90% of it. If that makes any sense. But, when, for example, if you want to write about pornography, the other thing you need to understand is about 90% of the world of advertisement, they have sexual contents. Society creates those images and they go inside you. And the question now is, why would a culture do that? I mean, if senators, people in the politics, they see mass shootings, why can't they stop? Why do they continue to allow guns in the hands of mentally ill or children? Well, they're bought by a lobbyist. They're bought by various branches of society. How do you stop it? And all of a sudden, it's very, very, very complicated. Now, there are a couple of things you can do. You can just go and talk to your Congress people, day in and day out, or you can just rise up. The point I'm trying to make is almost all the questions that you've asked today, they have social components in it, they have personal components in it, they have cultural components in it. And so if you really, really want to understand something, because you just want to understand, you have to kind of be able to look at all these different branches. Yeah. We have like 3 minutes. Jess?
You're talking about your parents locking you in your room.
Yeah.
Because you
Right.
were watching porn. That wouldn't happen if you trusted your parents. I mean, you wouldn't call the police on your parents.
Well, I think whenever your freedom of choice has been taken, you look at the people who have taken away your freedom as villains. You may love your father, but when he tells you you can't do A, B, C, D, the liking of your father goes away very, very quickly. He is the obstacle to your happiness. You want to be happy, you want to have pleasure, and he says no to you. It's like any kid. They're asleep, your parent comes in and says, get up, it's time to go to school. No, Dad, I just don't want to go. Don't go. It kicks you. You want to sleep? He says no. He says no because he perhaps doesn't want you to end up like him. He wants you to have perhaps a simpler life, a better life, a more comfortable life. But you don't see those things. Look, there's always going to be this difficulty in society. You have people who are older, and when you get old, life just gives you experiences. You may not like them, but it's just going to give you. In old age, you will gain clarity. That's just the way it is. When you have a kid, or when you see someone who is young, a young punk, you have no choice. As an older person, look at this young person and say, yeah, they're not going to go very far in life. It's not a judgment, it's an observation. It's given to you, this clarity is given to you by life. I'm not going to sit there, beg you come to class, man. Okay, you don't want to come? Don't come. But the idea that you're going to be the next Steve Jobs, you're a revolutionary because you don't like the system, fine, okay. I don't like you that much to all of a sudden intervene and spend all this energy so you can change. But I know your future. If I, on the other hand, was your father, I will do whatever in my power to destroy what you have defined as happy, pleasure, good. Because your version of happiness has not yet been tested by life. You go out there and you just fall in love with a stupid woman or a stupid man. And then you have the audacity to bring them home and say, Dad, I'm in love with the so-and-so. And I look at this person and say, oh my God, trash. What do you want me to do? Be happy for you? Of course not. You go home and you read the Gospel of Luke, the prodigal son. Read the story 50 times, 60 times. And it's about us. It's about, you go to your father or to your mother, any elder, and you tell them, and they say no, but they can't really do much. You say, okay, I've tried, I failed, do whatever you want to. And then you go, you live your own life, but you always will go back to the wisdom of your father or the wisdom that lives inside you, or moments of clarity. I knew I shouldn't have, but I did. 5 years later, you go back to that wisdom. You'll have some difficulty adjusting, but you'll adjust nevertheless. And that's how it is. You know, even in the world of politics, if you want to govern a people, if your king is 90 and 90% of your population is under the age of 30, well, what do 30-year-olds want? They want to have fun. What is it that the 90-year-old king has realized? Life is tough, man. Fun is not what life is. And what happens? The 90-year-old becomes a dictator. What happens to 30-year-olds? They begin to rile up and revolt. What happens? Well, the 90-year-old is dead. Now Snoop Dogg is sitting up there as the king. And that's how it is. That's how it's always been. Or Miley Cyrus. She's cuter. Bethany? Okay. I apologize. I'm not sure for what, but I apologize nevertheless. Have a nice day. See you on Wednesday. Oh, man.